So this is a video I never hoped to have to make. However, after watching some of the shooting footage from the Las Vegas mass shooting, it became apparent to me that a lot of people don't understand what gunfire sounds like, especially when it's aimed at you. And as someone who has been shot at, ballistic gelatin and throw it underneath the shoot skill target. Oh shit!
Oh, just fucking hit me over the fucking head, Joe.
It hit you?
Joe.
All right, get back. And as someone who's had some experience with training with that type of stuff, I feel like it's important for me to teach you guys how to recognize what gunfire sounds like, what kind of weapon system you're being engaged with when you do hear it, and how far away the shooter is. Now keep in mind, before we get into today's video, nothing we are talking about is meant to be disrespectful to those that were injured or killed during the shooting, or any other shooting for that matter. We're going to talk a little bit about how people reacted, but we're not trying to judge them. It's easy to, armchair quarterback this kind of stuff. However, this is meant to help teach people in order to keep you guys safer on the off chance you find yourself in a similar situation. So first, let's get into it. For our sake, we're going to break ammunition down into two different categories, supersonic and subsonic. The reason why we do so is because supersonic ammunition being fired at you sounds a lot different than subsonic ammunition. So basically, for our intents and purposes, supersonic ammunition is probably going to be shot at you from a rifle, and it's going to sound first probably like a crack, followed by a thump. So what you're hearing is three different things. First, you're going to hear the impact of the round striking whatever target it hits, either a person, which will probably sound like a thud, and then you're going to hear it possibly hit some concrete, which is going to sound more like a crack. Now, as it comes by you, it's going to have like a whip cracking sound, and that's because that projectile is breaking the sound barrier. So it's like a sonic boom as it goes past you. After that, hopefully, you're going to hear a thud. Now, that thud is the report of the rifle or weapon system. So that is actually the expanding gases coming out of the muzzle. Ooh, you hear that ricochet? If we listen to the recent shooting, go ahead, watch that video again. You can hear crack, 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 thump, thump, thump. Now what that's telling us is that the shooter is actually kind of far away. You can tell because the crack is going to reach you before the thud, and that's because of how far away the shooter is. We'll get into that a little bit later. So we have some ammunition here. We were just talking about supersonic. There's also subsonic ammunition. That's ammunition that's going to travel a little bit slower than the speed of sound, and that's going to sound more like a whiz as it comes past you. So with the video where we were shot at, albeit accidentally, you can hear the bullets whizzing past.
Ballistic gelatin and throw it underneath the shoot skill target. Oh shit.
Now you're also going to hear that for ricochets, so don't get confused. The ricochets are going to sound like a buzzing sound and more of a high-pitched like vroom noise compared to a like a paintball or an airsoft BB coming past your head. If you guys have ever done that, you know what I'm talking about. So the weapon systems that you're going to see shooting the supersonic ammunition is mainly rifles. So if you hear the crack, and you'll know it because it's deafening as it comes past you, you know you're being engaged with a rifle. Now if you're being shot at and you hear more of a whiz, that's probably going to be a handgun or possibly a shotgun. So shotgun shells are going to have multiple pellets in it, and it's basically like shooting a lot of pistols at one time. However, they're all going to be supersonic or subsonic in most cases, so it's going to sound more like a whizzing coming past you rather than a crack. Now, range estimation. There's this method called the crack bang method. There's several different names for it, and it's not perfect. However, for our intents, it's going to be imperative that you learn it. That way you can tell how far away the shooter is. So basically what we're calculating is how much time in between that bullet coming past you, that crack, between that and the report of the muzzle, so that thud. So you're going to hear crack, thud. Now, I went out to the range at about 100 meters, and I shot a supersonic load past the camera, and you can hear that there's going to be a crack followed by a thud. Now, if there's about a half second between the crack and the thud, that's roughly 300 yards. Now, this isn't a perfect system, but for our intents, we can go with that. So 300 yards for a half a second spread, and then at a 1 second spread, you're at about 600-700 yards. So if you're running in a direction and you hear that the crack and the thud are getting closer together, you're running the wrong direction. So now you want the biggest spread you can. So you want a crack and then a thud way later, or if you don't want to hear it at all, and that means you're getting farther away and you're running the right direction. So another important part is cover. If you notice in the video, a lot of folks were confused as to what's going on, which isn't their fault. They also couldn't move, which is unfortunate, and a lot of people just kind of duck and covered. That's not necessarily the best thing to do in that scenario, especially because a lot of projectiles like to travel along the ground when they skip. You want to get out of the area as fast as possible, obviously. I'm not trying to put down what those folks did. Obviously, they're in a tough spot and they couldn't move for a lot of reasons. However, if you find yourself in that situation, you need to find cover. So run, hide, fight. So run if you can get out of the area. If you can't, you need to hide. And by hiding, you need to get behind cover. So for our intents, if you're hearing a crack, rifle fire, you need to be behind something like concrete. A car is better than nothing. However, it's not going to stop rifle fire. You're looking at about an inch of concrete or more, or some hardened steel. If you have to get behind a car, get behind a rim, something that has some steel in it that will possibly stop some rounds, and you want to cover your head. That way your arms take any sort of rounds or shrapnel. And then fight. If you can't run and hide, then you need to fight. If you find yourself in that situation, unfortunately, you need to listen for the reload, especially if someone's got a rifle. It might be a little bit slower. So if you listen to the video, you'll notice there's pauses in when the active shooter is engaging targets, and that's him reloading. So as his magazine runs out of ammo, he has to strip it out, load a new mag in, rack the slide, and keep going, or charging handle probably in his case. So for you, that's your time to either run or attack this guy. If you need to attack somebody, use any weapon you have. If you don't have a concealed carry permit and you're in a state where they don't allow it, go ahead and get a different type of weapon, either a knife or whatever you need to do. A flashlight, something to blind the guy and just get out of there. So these are just a few tips that hopefully could help you guys survive if you find yourself in that unfortunate situation. There are also a lot more tips out there. This isn't the end-all be-all. So if you guys have any tips, please post them below. Please share the video to help spread awareness. And if you feel like this isn't good information, please post below. Open to all types of listeners. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope I don't have to make another video like this anytime soon.